All praise to the Most High, Ahaya, and to his son, Yahayasha, Messiah, Yada. This is Brother Holly here with the first Spirit of Truth broadcast here on the AHAYAH'S channel, as well as the House of Ahaya channel, on this set-apart Sabbath day. First and foremost, as always, like to give all glory, praise, and honor to the great I am, he who is, was, and is to come, the Almighty One, Yada, and to his son, Yahayasha, Messiah, who gave himself for us that we might have life, and that life is in him, Yada. Now, in this first broadcast, we're going to be discussing something that's I would like to say it's a final point of the law, but it's something that the law and the prophets keep mentioning over and over again. You can find this prohibition in the apocryphal books as well, against intermingling with other nations, joining in affinity with them, marrying them, having children with them, mixing with them in a physical or a sexual way. That is a forbidden practice for all the children of Jacob, has been since the beginning, and it will continue to be until the end. There is no end to this commandment. We're going to read that from the book of Jubilees here in a moment. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because when I was reading this from the book of reading about this prohibition from the book of Jubilees, I discovered that this particular sin explains some of the things that were found in Torah and in the prophets that was never explained. Or I personally understood it differently than how it really is. When it talks about your seed or your sons and daughters passing through the fire unto Moloch. And I'll go over in a moment why we don't mention the name of foreign deities or idols here on these channels in a moment from the scriptures. Why we just spell it out. And I ask you to be careful not to do that. And we'll read the prohibition in a moment. But what I discovered is what I thought that meant. Now, we've all seen the pictures of people, these children being offered to an idol with a flaming fire. But what it points out in the book of Jubilees is you're actually doing that when you're joining with people of another nation. When you're passing your seed as a man to a woman that's not of the kindred of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So for all you passport brothers out there and all you divesting sisters out there of the Afro-Hebraic people, this message is pointed right at you. Passport brothers, come home, find you a sister. Sisters, leave Zaddy alone, leave Kawan alone, and get you a brother. For then our seed will be referred to as the holy seed unto Ahaya. We are his temple, we are his dwelling place, and we've been mixing ourselves with these people who are bent and determined on worshiping the stars of heaven, the things in the ocean, things on the land, things of their own imagination, deities they make up. And we've talked about it before when we read from Torah that the nations of the earth were given over to idolatry. There's only one nation that was not given over to idolatry. We read from the book of Jubilees a few weeks ago that there are evil spirits appointed over all the nations of the earth except for Yasha Allah. We're the only people. Forgive me for that. The cyber attacks began. But we're the only nation on the face of the earth that doesn't have an evil spirit appointed over us. That we can serve the Most High Power, Ahaya Ahaya, in spirit and in truth. We'll be reading from the AHAYAH'S King James Version Bible Apocrypha, Enoch Jasher Jubilees KJV version. And we'll be reading from the Learn Paleo Hebrew Torah, Lashwan Kodash, Holy Tongue, Yasha Ahaya Bible Scriptures. And I know I've made shout outs multiple times on these channels about this particular reference. If you do not have this reference, I suggest you get it. Last time I checked, it was about $80, $85. And it's pretty hefty price for something only that thick. But I believe that is an indispensable reference for you, and it proudly and most concisely presents the Most High's most sacred name as it is AHAYAH'S throughout this version. So you don't need a Sefer if you just want Jubilees, Jasher, and the Book of Enoch, and you don't have to degauge yourself every time you read your Sefer. Now you have the Jubilees, Jasher, and the Book of Enoch, plus all of the Apocryphal books except Second Baruch in this particular version. All praises. First, we're going to look at the prohibition against saying the names of these foreign deities. Turn, if you will, to the book of Exodus. Book of Exodus. I know I marked it. Me children, like I lost my place. Thank you. Book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 13. Exodus 23, 13, and it reads, "And in all things I have said unto you to be circumspect," or be careful, "and make no mention of the name of other deities, neither let it be heard out of your mouth." Will you highlight? So when you're reading the scriptures, when you're reading your Bible, when you're reading the other sacred texts, and you come across the names of these foreign deities, you come across the YHWH, or you come across MOLOCH, as we will see here in a moment. When you come across these names given to these false deities, to these idols, to these demons, we're not to make mention of those names. We're not even to let those names come out of our mouth. Just spell them. That's what I do. I just spell them. I don't say them. And I'm going to read it again. Let this burn into your hearing, children. Exodus 23:13. "And in all things I have said unto you to be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of another deity, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth." Will you highlight? Exodus 23:13 is the prohibition against saying the names of these foreign deities. Even if they're found in the scriptures, you don't say their names. We're to be careful not to do it. I hope I reiterated that point successfully. All right. Turn, if you will, to your copy of the book of Jubilees. Jubilees chapter 30. And let's start reading at verse 5. This is a long read, so thank you for your patience. Jubilees chapter 30, verse 5. "And thus let it not again be done from henceforth that a daughter of Yasha'Allah be defiled, for judgment is ordained in heaven against them that they should destroy with the sword all the men of the Shechemites, because they have wrought shame in Yasha'Allah. And Ahayah delivered them into the hands of the sons of Jacob, that they might exterminate them with the sword, and execute judgment upon them, that it might not thus again be done in Yasha'Allah, that a virgin of Yasha'Allah should be defiled." We highlight. Give you a little background. Well, the situation that had happened was a daughter of Yasha'Allah had been sexually assaulted, the R word. And when the sons of Yasha'Allah found out about it, they went out and killed him. And the judgment was passed on those people who attacked her as being just, and they were justified in killing her. And the Most High is going to not only give the prohibition against touching one of his anointed and the most holy children, and defiling a daughter of Jacob, but he's also going to put a prohibition against the men and women of Yasha'Allah, mixing themselves with the other nations in a more of a voluntary way. Let's keep reading. I'll read verse 6 again. Jubilees chapter 30, verse 6. And AHAYAH delivered into the hands of the sons of Jacob, delivered them into the hands of the sons of Jacob, that they might exterminate them with the sword and execute judgment upon them, and that it might not thus again be done in Yasha'Allah, that a virgin of Yasha'Allah should be defiled. And if there is any man who wishes in Yasha'Allah to give his daughter or his sister to any man who is of the seed of the Gentiles, he shall surely die. They shall stone him with stones, for he has wrought shame in Yasha'Allah. And they shall burn the woman with fire, because she has dishonored the name of the house of her father, and she shall be rooted out of Yasha'Allah with your highlight. See, it's not just talking about the penalty for someone who sexually attacks and assaults a daughter of Yasha'Allah. It's talking about any man who gives his daughter or his sister to a man who is a Gentile. That man should be put to death, and you burn the woman with fire. For they have wrought shame. The same level of shame that a sexual assault of a daughter of Yasha'Allah, a virgin of Yasha'Allah, that was brought about, is brought about when you give your daughter or you give your sister into the Gentiles, to a man who is of the seed of the Gentiles. You've wrought shame, Yasha'Allah. I'll read it again. Jubilees chapter 30, verse 7. And if there is any man who wishes in Yasha'Allah to give his daughter or his sister to any man who is of the seed of the Gentiles, he shall surely die. And they shall stone him with stones, for he has wrought shame in Yasha'Allah. And they shall burn the woman with fire, because she has dishonored the name of the house of her father, and she shall be rooted out of Yasha'Allah. And let not an adulteress, nor adulteress, nor uncleanliness be found in Yasha'Allah throughout all the days of the generations of the earth. For Yasha'Allah is holy unto AHAYAH, and every man who has defiled it shall surely die. They shall be stoned with stones with your highlight. How do you defile the house of Yasha'Allah? How do you defile that which is holy unto AHAYAH? You defile it when you commit adultery. You defile it when you attack a daughter of Yasha'Allah and sexually assault her. You defile it. You defile his house, his sanctuary. For we are his temple. We are his flesh. We are his bone. We are his dwelling place. You defile the temple of AHAYAH. When you sexually assault a virgin or a daughter of Yasha'Allah, when you give your sister or your daughter to a man who is of the seed of the Gentiles, or when you perform uncleanliness or adultery as a child of Yasha'Allah, you've defiled the temple. You shall be put to death. That's your judgment. All praises. Next verse. Verse 9, chapter 30, verse 9 of Jubilees. For thus it was ordained and written in the heavenly tablets regarding all the seed of Yasha'Allah. He who defiles it shall surely die, and he shall be stoned with stones. And to this law there is no limit of days, and no remission, nor any atonement. But the man who has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out of the midst of all Yasha'Allah, because he has given his seed to MOLOCH, where you highlight, and has wrought impropriety, so as to defile it, where you highlight. When you give your daughter or your sister to be married to a Gentile, you have given your seed to MOLOCH in the eyes of AHAYAH, written on the heavenly tablets. That's that sin that is talked about in the book of Leviticus. And we're going to read it from Leviticus right now. Hold your place in Jubilees. We're coming back. We got more to read. Leviticus chapter 18, verse 21. And it reads, and thou shalt not let any of thy seed pass through the fire to Molch, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy Alahayah. I am Ahayah. We highlight. You don't let any of your seed, any of your offspring, go to be sacrificed to Molch. How do you do that? How does that sacrifice? When you give them to be married to these heathens. When you give your daughter over to be married to a heathen, or your son over to be married to a heathen, you are offering now, you are effectively offering your seed unto Molch. Wow. I'll read it again from Jubilees. Jubilees chapter 30, verse 9. For thus it has been ordained and written in the heavenly tablets regarding all the seed of Yashar'Allah. He who defiles it shall surely die. He shall be stoned with stone. And to this law, verse 10, and to this law there is no limit of days, no remission, nor any atonement. But the man who has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out of the midst of all Yashar'Allah, because he has given of his seed to Molch and has wrought impudiciously, so as to defile it. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Yashar'Allah, next verse, and exhort them not to give their daughters to the Gentiles, nor to take for their sons any of the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is abominable before Ahayah, will you highlight. We're back in Jubilees chapter 30, for those who are a little slow keeping up. You're not to give your daughter, you're not to take of the daughter of the Gentiles. You're not, passport brothers, I'm talking to you now. Come on back. Or better yet, if you got to live abroad, if you got to live in Thailand, Philippines, find you a sister, an Afro-Hebrew woman there, if there any there, or bring one from wherever you came from. If you're an Afro-Hebrew, go find you an Afro-Hebrew sister. You can both live in Thailand, but live together there as man and wife. Don't take no wife of them heathens. Don't you dare do that. Sisters, the divesting community, I'm talking to you now. Stop laying up with Zaddy. Stop laying up with these other men from the other nations. Find your brother. Humble yourself down. Be submissive. And I guarantee you, if you'll humble yourself down, sister, and be submissive, a brother will take you for wife. That's all he ever asked of you. That's all I've ever asked of any of you. Humble yourself down and be submissive. That's it. That's it. I'll read it again. Jubilees 30 and 10. And to this law there is no limit of days, or no remission, nor any atonement. But the man who has defiled his daughter shall be rooted out of the midst of all Yashar'Allah, because he has given of his seed to Molch. When you give your daughter away to some man of another nation, you're committing idolatry. To Molch, you're giving your seed to that. Just like Leviticus said for you not to do. And wrought impetiously, so as to defile it. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Yashar'Allah and exhort them, next verse 11. And do thou, Moses, command the children of Yashar'Allah and exhort them not to give their daughters to the Gentiles, nor to take for their sons any of the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is abominable before Ahayah. For this reason I have written for thee in the words of the law all the deeds of the Shemonites, which they wrought against Diana, and how the sons of Jacob spake, saying, we will not give our daughters to a man who is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us, and it is a reproach to Yasha'Allah, to those who live, and to those who take the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is unclean and abominable to Yasha'Allah, will you highlight? Deuteronomy, Shalah. Jubilees 30 and 13 again. It is a reproach to Yasha'Allah, to those who live, and to those that take the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is unclean and abominable to Yasha'Allah, will you highlight? Next verse. And Yasha'Allah will not be free from this uncleanliness if it has a wife of the daughters of the Gentiles. Wow. Long as you keep her. This is not just a sin and an abominable thing that affects you and you alone, brother. This is not just a sin that affects you and you alone, sister. We're going to see that your divesting sister and your passport ho-hopping brother is affecting us all. Jubilees 30 and 14. And Yasha'Allah will not be free from this uncleanliness if it has a wife of the daughters of the Gentiles, or has given any of his daughters to a man who is of any of the Gentiles. For there will be plague upon plague. Verse 15. For there will be plague upon plague, and curse upon curse. And every judgment and plague and curse will come upon him if he do this thing, or hide his eyes from those who commit uncleanliness, or those who defile the sanctuary of AHAYAH, or those who profane his holy name. Then will the whole nation together be judged for all the uncleanliness and profanation of this man. Highlight, underline, put stop, whatever you got to do. Right in the margin. Passport brothers and divesting sisters are causing causing judgment to fall on all of us. We need to stop this and stop this today. That's why they don't want you reading Jubilees. As long as your enemies can keep you sinning, they can keep their thumb on the scale and their knee on your neck. As long as you sinning. As long as you live in an abominable state, I ain't going to pass judgment on them. Now you got to learn. If you won't take AHAYAH'S word, then you're just going to have to suffer. And your disobedience to AHAYAH'S word affects us all with this sin. I'll read it again. Jubilees chapter 30. Start reading in verse 15 again. Oh, Shalaki. Verse 13 again. And it is a reproach to Yasha'Allah, to those who live, and to those that take the daughters of the Gentiles. For this is unclean and abominable to Yasha'Allah. And Yasha'Allah will not be free from this uncleanliness if it has a wife of the daughters of the Gentiles, or has given any of its daughters to a man who is of any of the Gentiles. For there will be plague upon plague. Verse 15. Jubilees 30 and 15. For there will be plague upon plague, and curse upon curse. And every judgment and plague and curse will come upon him if he do this thing, or hide his eyes from those who commit uncleanliness, or those who defile the sanctuary of AHAYAH, or those who profane his holy name. Will the whole nation together be judged for all the uncleanliness and profanation of this man. Highlight, underline, whatever you got to do. Right in the margin. This is why we all suffer. Because of you, passport brother. Line up there with whatever her name is. Because of you, divesting sister with Zaddy. Because of you. We all suffer. Plague upon plague, curse upon curse. Because of your profanation. Your defiling the temple. Oh, you're going to be destroyed if you don't repent. And come out from among them and be separate. Touch not the unclean. And Ahaya will say he'll receive you. You can come back. But you got to repent. Verse 15, one more time. For there will be plague upon plague, and curse upon curse, and every judgment and plague and curse will come upon him, if he do this thing, or hide his eyes from those who commit uncleanliness, or those who defile the sanctuary of Ahaya. See, now, when you read in the New Testament, where Ahaya destroying those who defile the temple, this is where it comes from. This is what the Apostle Saul, whom we all trust, was quoting. He was quoting the book of Jubilees, which everybody fight against, almost. Even Afro-Hebrews fight against you reading Jubilees. I see why, because they want to keep them strange women around. Verse 15 again, I digress. Sorry, children. Jubilees 30 and 15. For there will be plague upon plague, and curse upon curse, and every judgment and plague and curse will come upon him, if he do this thing, or hide his eyes from those who commit uncleanliness, or those who defile the sanctuary of Ahaya, or those who profane his holy name. Then will the whole nation together be judged for all the uncleanliness and profanation of this man. And there, verse 16, and there will be no respect of persons, and no consideration of persons, and no receiving at his hands of fruits and offerings, and burnt offerings and fat, nor the fragrance of the sweet savor, so as to accept it. And so fare every man or woman in Yasha'Allah who defiles the sanctuary. Wow. For this reason I've commanded thee, saying, testify this testimony to Yasha'Allah. See how the Shemonites fared, and their sons, how they were delivered into the hands of 2 sons of Jacob, and they slew them under tortures, and it was reckoned unto them for righteousness, as it is written down for righteousness. Wow. See what happens when you defile the sanctuary of Ahaya? You bring judgment on us all. Passport brothers, wherever country you in, if you ain't with an Afro-Hebrew woman in the country you in, either find one or come home and get you a sister. Sisters, here in the Americas, if you ain't with no Afro-Hebrew man, find you one. Quit mingling with the seed of the Gentiles. Come out from among them and be ye separate unto Ahaya. All praise to the Most High, Ahaya, and to his son, Yahayasha, Messiah, Yadah Hayah.